we have a list of things that you guys want me to show you how to do.
I don't have a list.
Do you have any, do you have any requests on specific things that you want me to do?
Yeah. Yeah. Are you okay with people using the templates you put in for? Yeah. Can you show us how to copy that and or like use it? Or does everybody do that already? I don't want people, but I think it's super helpful. So, do you do that already?
I do, like the profile buyer and.
Yeah.
And speak and all that stuff.
Do you see that, Jim?
It does, it helps a ton, but I don't know if I need to
do
make
it.
any changes.
Because maybe I do it in a backwards way where there's like a way easier.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Other questions I have in Authentisign. So let's say you're for new agents, right? I'm always telling people to go in there, create fake people, right? And practice sending stuff and whatever. And then going back in and like cleaning up your Authentisign and that type of thing. Like, I feel like there's good housekeeping stuff to probably go through in there.
Yeah,
like
maybe organization, but
like, is there an organization you can have in there for like, I want, my dashboard to look this way?
yeah. Or like with all the different types of forms. Like, I don't know, I feel like sometimes when I'm doing a transaction, like things seem like they get lost, but they're just like moved down a little bit, or it's just because I hadn't edited the last thing that I edited, and I'm like, where is it? Or
Okay, anything else?
I'm just gonna put this caveat in here too that thank you so much for doing this for us, Kelly. Kelly's not only our tech ambassador for our office, but also with Profile. Did you say this already? And so Profile can do this stuff for you as well. So definitely, if you have questions or that sounds like something you'd love to do, and you talk with agents all the time who either paperwork's like not their thing, right? And so this is a really good leverage tool to say, Kelly, I don't want to do this. How can we make this work? Or you're just busy, right? Or you're out of town or something. You can do one-offs as well, correct?
Yeah, for sure.
So
yeah, it's not all or nothing.
Thank you so much for being here.
Anyone online have specific requests? No, see a little chat. A little bubble. Okay, awesome. Okay, so Zwilling, Zwilling.
And your profile email that you would have sent to new agents is Kelly@profile, right?
Profiletm.com.
Okay. So if you might have an email from her already.
Yep. Awesome. Well, log into the MLS. I assume everyone knows how to do that. And then you can access Transaction Desk by coming over to Tools and then in the drop down. That's how we get here. And so my login does have some other permissions and features that not everyone has. So you might see a few things that are just a little bit different, but you can do everything that I'm going to show you. Okay, so the main thing it sounds like are those templates, which can save a ton of time having a template and not having to go and search for each document and then even have to know the list of documents every time you start a new transaction. So Profile has created templates and then we update them every year. So we're about to get a new round of forms and there's gonna be lots of changes this time based on the lawsuit and whatnot. So we actually make it a thing where we schedule and we make sure that we have extra help to get those turned over quickly. So they don't actually release until the 1st. And then we have to go through each office and create new templates and sometimes each individual agent. So if you're working on August 1st and some of the forms are missing from the templates or you see like some things weird, it's because we're in there working to get everything over. And unfortunately, it's not something like they give you any sort of like, here are the forms a few days ahead, and then you have a few days to get everything switched. They don't do that. So just know that on the first, things are going to switch over and to be patient. And even if you have your own templates, it's the same thing. You'll be able to see which ones are expired in there, and then you have to put it down.
I have another question to bring up. So if you put your form guy over there and maybe it doesn't look the same as, not template, sorry, just go to like the form. Yeah. So when you look at that, oh, maybe you don't have that. Maybe I just have that for some weird reason because I have an old form that's active. Because I have two.
There's old forms here. Page 21.
Well, yours is just way more organized than mine. I have two MNARs, like residential forms. I have two of those folders. Maybe somewhere I have an old form that I use for somebody that's active out there. It is weird. All right, well, again, clean up, right?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so I'm gonna go through these templates. So over here on the left-hand side, you'll get to template. And then you're gonna click here on transaction template. And then no matter what your status is in the MLS, your permissions, you'll be able to see any templates that you created yourself in here. And you'll also see any templates that are shared with the office. So that is where you have to be a super user to be able to create a template and share it with the office. But you can create your own template and use it yourself, no problem.
You're gonna show us both things, like to create ourselves and use profile.
Yeah, so if you want to create a new template, you're gonna click up here on add. And then if you're a super user, you have the option to make it personal or office. If you're not, you won't even have this option at the top.
Nobody in here.
Okay. Okay. So sometimes, sometimes teams have them because they are sharing stuff like this. And so it's not just like, it's only given to be able to share things across. And if you're a single agent, you really don't need to. And then the office.
And if I would say, if you have an interest in sharing something, that would be a conversation, Kevin and myself, to make you a super user. But right now, if you are a solo agent, you are not a super user.
And you don't need it. Like, that's really the only thing that you get from that is just to be able to create things and share with the office. And having that just like clutters everything up for the office if everyone was creating for the office. That makes sense. Okay. So you're gonna name your template. So we're gonna call this last July. And then you're gonna pick what type of template you have. This isn't required, but I like to pick it because if you're doing like a commercial template or residential or vacant land or something like that, you can specify which kind of template you want, what it is. And then a description is also good too. If you're like, some people really can drill these in. So like, this is single family with a HOA. This is single family with no inspection. So you can be super specific and then have that part in the description. Okay, so now you have your template here basically created and we get to add things to it. So we don't typically use a checklist for anything personally because I don't use this for, we don't use this to manage our transactions, but it looks like there is a checklist here already and then you can add checklists too. With Command and some other software, it's a lot of adding here. Contacts. So we use this a lot if you are always sending someone copies of things in your transaction. So if you have an assistant, or you have a transaction coordinator, or you have a partner that's with you, and you want them on all the signing, or you're using the same title company over and over again, and you just want them in there to be able to see things to them, or a lender, you can add their contact right in here. And it's not going to share it with them, but they're gonna be a contact in that transaction. So that when you go in to add signings and those types of things, it's already in that transaction. So it makes it really nice to be able to do that. Those are just some of the examples of like who might be a contact that you would have on every single listing or every single transaction. And so you can create a new contact. I don't actually know what an oh. Add a title company. Huh. It must be just making a marker for it. I've never used that.
Like maybe like a placeholder. Like,
Yeah.
it's just like the option to add them real quick.
Yeah. I don't know that it seems really useful, but it seems like it would make more sense if you just have your partners that you're doing all the time. So to add somebody in, you really don't need a ton of information. There's a lot of blanks here, but it's not all required. You just need to know what type. So you pick what they are, like what their title is, first name, last name. And then if you are going to be including them as like a CC or a reviewer or something like that on signatures, like when you're sending things through Authentisign, I recommend putting their email address in now, because that's going to save you time once you get into the Authentisign system where you send for signatures. So you just pop those pieces in there, and then you click save. So we just we're going to save them there. Then you will see created a new one, and you will see him right here. And so you can add as many as you want. Okay, then the next two things sometimes get confusing between documents and forms. So documents are pieces that get uploaded, and forms are actually living documents in the. So you click on documents, and you're gonna add a document, like you're gonna import it from somewhere else. So you're getting that from somewhere else.
Seller's disclosure or something
Or
like that.
preventable.
Correct, but you wouldn't want to put those things in a template.
Oh, that's true.
So potentially this could be like a inspection notice, like you should do inspections, and this is like a flyer on.
Radon, like with the radon thing.
Yes, or the lead-based paint booklet. Like those would be documents that you would upload. Or if the brokerage has something that's required that is not actually in the forms, so that would be in a document. You would upload that. Okay. Then we have the forms. So these are living forms in here. So you're gonna click on forms, and then you're gonna get to all those folders that Candy had us go to earlier.
That are minor really.
Yeah, and so a lot of times, like, I do just kind of know some of the forms, or I just search by one name. So you can click on here and just search purchase, and then you're gonna get all the things that say purchase agreement, right? Or if you're looking for lead-based paint, just type in lead, and then you'll start to get all the things for lead. And so you can just pick whatever you want. then the thing is, when you're coming through here, you do wanna pay attention to if it's commercial, vacant land, or if you're, can go into the folders that way, and then you don't have that. I just find switching it here for me. And so you can add a bunch at one time. You could do this, and then you can do lead-based paints. That's one that's always covers PM for this potential. Okay, we're gonna add these two in here. So now you've picked out all of your forms, and then this is like the really fun part of having a template, is you can pre-fill in things that are going to happen all of the time. And you're not stuck to it. So even if it's pre-filled in here, once you create a transaction, you can still edit it. So it's not like it's stuck in there forever. So if you come in here and say, like, always add such and such personal property on this line, you can just add that right in here. There's also you can add clauses. I don't use this a ton, but yeah. So you can save clauses in here. So you can grab them.
I mean, I think the nice part about having a template is really that for like the broker admin fee, that type of thing can always be filled in here. Or if you are like, oh, I know when I'm working with a buyer, I'm always gonna say I want things to go back to the buyer. You can check all those boxes already. Or you can just kind of do that, so then it alerts you to be like, oh, this is something I should look at. Do I need to change it? Or is it good how it is? And then you kind of have that done already.
Yes.
Would you agree that that's the nice part about having, or what else would be like the benefit of having a template?
I think that is the exact benefit. It makes it way faster. And if you are a newer agent and you want to sit down with like Kevin or a mentor and kind of go through a good general way of filling out a purchase agreement and then understanding which terms, which boxes are which way, and not that it'll be a fit for every single buyer that you have, but that can help you with just going through and being able to explain it to a buyer later when you are going through that purchase agreement. And so just having this together already, again, is going to save so much time. So you'll come through and you're going to click on everything that you think is how you would do it. We'll say 80% of the time, we'll use the 80-20 rule. So 80% of the time, this is how you're going to do it, but you might have a buyer or a seller or whatever you're doing your template for that you're going to change things. That's okay. Have that ability. So once you get through all of the things that you want pre-filled out in here, then you're going to come up here where it says save and exit. And then it's going to bring you back where you were. And then you basically have your template. There is team sharing. I'll briefly talk about this. Team sharing doesn't actually share a template. It's sharing the transactions that you use that template for. And unless you're on a team, it really doesn't make sense. Like, even if you're doing like a partnership or something like that, where you're doing like a transactions with somebody, if you create a template and then you share it with them, every transaction that you use that template for is then going to be shared with that agent. So it's kind of a weird sharing feature. I think it should be changed. I think it should be just sharing the actual template and not sharing the transaction. Templates that are shared at the office level, like we talked about originally, that's not sharing transactions at all, only sharing that template, which is how I think the team sharing should be, like on a one-on-one, but that's not how the technology is. Any bubbles up there? Okay, so now you have your template created, and so you want to go start a transaction. So I like to come to, I mean, you talked about the dashboard. I typically click on the home button where I usually start, because this is where all of the transactions are. And then you click on add, and now you're going to name your transaction. So, July last transaction. And we get to find our template. So we have last July. And then this is a fun feature. You can import information from the MLS. So you can do this whether it's a listing, which is super helpful for the MLS form, or even if you're doing a purchase agreement, again, it's going to pull in information directly from the MLS, which includes co-brokerage. So if you're writing a purchase agreement on a property and you pull in, it's going to pull in a lot of that information from the MLS and also have the contact information here for the listing agent. And so it'll make it easier once you get to the end and you're doing signing, you want them to have signatures or CC on the offer.
Anybody do that here?
I do it all the time. It's like, it's so helpful because the first time I was filling out a purchase agreement, I was like, wait, I have to input the description, like the lot lines and the degrees and all like the geographic stuff. So I was gonna futz around with that. So I just did the MLS. It just puts it all in there. It's magic.
I just need a graph. Okay, so we're gonna pick this listing and I don't even know what it is. Okay. And then you want to add yourself as the agent. And I do this at this level, not at the top level, because I want to be able to pick if I'm a buyer, agent, or. So we're going to be a buyer's agent on this. And then I do like to use the wizard because it walks each piece. You know. And you hit create.
He's like, later. For some reason, that elevator music came into my head. Da-da-dun, da-da-dun.
I was having a hard time with the MLS the other day. It was like I would type everything in and it would give me like an error, like log on it. So I think they're doing stuff.
We have a tolerated relationship.
I hate tolerate.
It was down like the other night.
Every time they do an update, then it's not good after. But I get it. I mean, I do understand that the MLS is 24/7. And so for them to make changes, like it's really hard for them to shut, like I do get it. But yeah, I think they make changes and I couldn't imagine what they're.
Surprisingly, like.
Sure. Okay, so now
Before I get
it finally opened our wizard. So it's doing all that crazy thinking. Okay, so in this first section, these are the details basically about the property in here. And then you can also add information that will import into the purchase agreement, like purchase price and earnest. So you can fill these in, or you can fill it in right on the form. We're gonna get to that section. If you're doing this for a listing, it will import, say, a previous listing if you enter that MLS number. It's really important to come in here and look at the list price here and remove it and edit it to the correct list price. If not, you could end up clicking through too quickly and having a incorrect price because it is going to pull whatever is. Same thing with dates. So it could pull in old dates that don't make any sense. Okay, so if this all looks great, we're gonna click next. This is actually where the date section is. And so again, if you're pulling this in for a listing, you're going to want to update these dates and make sure that those are correct. But you can enter all of this information here. We'll just pick a date. Okay, then we're going to click next. If you click on save and exit on accident, you didn't ruin anything, you just left the wizard. Like, it does save it, it's just gonna exit that wizard. It is. Well, I can start talking about it. So this is exactly what I was saying is it's going to pull in the listing agent information from the MLS. And so they're already in here. And then at this point, we would be adding our contacts. So if we're writing an offer, we would be adding our buyer. If you're doing this for a listing, you want to remove the old listing agent's information because it will pull that in the same and you just want to dump them out of there. So if you want to dump someone, you just click here and you click on delete. Gone.
And even if they're on there, that doesn't mean they're gonna get like an email to get a signature, like, cause. I see your name on there when I use the profile buyer template all the time, I'm just like.
I have the same thing. Like,
Yeah,
You see me using your thing, like,
Don't have the any of
and then playing around with them, okay.
No, but when it comes to the form, if you're doing a listing agreement and you don't delete the listing agent, the system is gonna fight like getting put in that spot.
Yeah.
So you might have to manually and edit it in the form. So if you delete it, then it's just gonna pull it out of there and then enter yourself. I don't know. Well, I'm gonna say something else while that's loading. They won't be able to see it online. But on the right-hand side, sometimes instead of like the next over here, I'll just start clicking down here, because these are all the different stages of the wizard. So
It says dashboard, details, contacts.
exactly, yeah.
Okay, yeah, they can see you online.
Oh, good.
Yeah, that's okay.
So that's all these things here. And so like, once you get farther into a transaction, like we go into the transaction, click on findings all the time. Like that's super helpful to be able to keep this organized and have everything in the transaction in one spot. Oh. All right, and next. Okay, so then when you get to the forms, say you're using one of our forms or you're using a really broad template and it has a lot of extra forms that you're not going to use. So like a lot of ours will have lead-based paint, HOA, like it has all the forms that you could need. And so I always take those out right away if I don't need them. So if it's a property that does not have a CIC, I click in there and remove it. It's the same as we just did. I'm not going to do it again because it made it freeze like crazy. But then you would just delete it from here. But let's open one. And so at this point, I'm going to get my form ready with all the details that I want from this section.
Like all the little details like offer price, earnest money, post date, all that stuff.
Yep. And so if you do the beginning of the wizard and you filled it in there, it will be filled in on the form. Or you can do it right in here. So like I filled in a few little dates, like I filled in the offer date. So then everything that has a date is gonna have that on here. I don't have to click on it, do it. If I would have picked a buyer, which I didn't, if I would have added a buyer into the contacts, it would pop that buyer right in here.
I often find myself trying to fill everything in the wizard that I know, like right from the get-go. It just doesn't I don't know, for some reason it makes it seem like it's just gonna go a lot more like smoothly when I open up the form, because it's like, oh, it's already there.
Yeah, exactly. So part of our template, I had clicked on these few terms here. And so say I'm like, oh, well, for this one, it's actually, I'm gonna switch it to the seller. You can see that you're not committed forever, even though that's what's in our template. The same thing here, like you can click it and change it, and everything is editable in the live document. Okay, so once you get this exactly where you want it, again, you can click save and exit, or if you have more forms to go through, you can click on transaction forms, and then you're gonna see all the forms that are in that transaction, and you can get right to the next one from right here and not have to like go all the way back into that other screen of the transaction. This is what I typically do is I'm going through my list of forms right here. And then when you're all done, okay.
Oh, press that one. Like that.
And then we're to the documents. So if we had uploaded like the lead-based needs for like an inspection alert like that, that would be in here as well. This is a default, this back cover sheet, which I think is hilarious. I don't know why. But this is just the default in there. It doesn't show up anywhere. This is where you would upload a pre-approval letter at this point, because this is going to be specific to the transaction, not. And then done. Now we are done with that wizard. And if you decide, oh, you know what, I was waiting for that email address for the buyers. And so now I can go back into contacts and I can add a new transaction contact. And we can add the buyer in that we were missing. And then say Sally is buying this in an LLC. She's signing her name, but she's signing on behalf of company or like LLC. You can type in the name here and initials, but then it's going to show her signature, but it's going to have the company. So like you're going to write it on the purchase agreement that like on the buyer line would be 123 LLC. But she's going to sign as her name because you don't want her to sign in 123 LLC. That makes sense.
So on the
So you're gonna,
yep, go ahead.
yeah, so you're gonna have Sally buyer, right? Here. And then on the form,
The owner should be.
so it's gonna default to Sally buyer, but then you're gonna change it to the LLC. But this isn't gonna change for signature. So if you enter the buyer as 123 LLC, it'll make her.
Go back and show that again now where you did for legal.
So over here to contacts. Got Sally. Want to make sure her information is here, but then you're going to change it on the purchase. So then the next step is typically signing. Right, so you can click on signing here and then add and signing name. So I like to be really specific on what it is. So if it's an inspection amendment, doing 1, 2, 3 slash inspection amendment. And I know you can go into signing a bunch of different ways. So you can do it this way, or you can click here on signing. And if you click on this, like you can add a transaction. There's just so many different ways to get there. I just like to do it right from where I am. So we're in here, signing, add, and now it's going to add all of the information. Okay. So then when I come in here, you're going to see signers, and then you can do add from transaction. So now it's going to pull in everyone that was in that transaction. Then you can decide what they're going to do. So if they're a remote signer, and then we've got our mortgage guy, right? Because he was in our template, on everything. So you can choose to add him, or if you're like, nope, actually, I'm not going to cash deal, not going to get copied. Then you don't have to scan. Never knows why they're. But if you're just going to CC him up here, CC means they get it after everything is signed. Reviewer means they're getting it ahead of signatures, and they have to accept it for it to go on to the rest of the
So something I haven't talked to Kevin about, but with my original, like my first book, I used Reviewer with my first couple of them, which was great, right? Be like, hey, I have this done, reviewed it. Otherwise, they're like, oh, you gotta change this or this, or we just click like, yep, and then it would go off to the people. That's a nice function, especially if you have something maybe funky in there too, where you're like, I added this wording because it's kind of a weird thing. So reviewer might be kind of nice to be like, hey, Kevin, I'm sending you this PA. I had to add this thing because this house has this weird thing. Can you review it? If it looks good, send it on. And if not, like, let's talk. So reviewer is a nice, I do like that option.
So if you ever use Profile for offer writing, we use Reviewer. It's actually required. So you submit your form, and we get the offer prep for you, and the agent is the reviewer. So they get the documents first, be able to review and sign it, and then it goes on to their buyer or seller. Okay, so then we've got the next thing are docs, which is really funny because, like, I think it should say forms first, but they call it docs, which is a combination of your docs and your forms that are in the transaction. So you can just click on here and you're going to see everything that's in your transaction, and you can upload here. So maybe you want to get started on things, but you don't have that pre-approval letter yet to add to the transaction. You can still get things started and upload it directly to signing. So add.
And question. So in that case, if you're like adding the pre-approval, is that because you see a lot of people, they just like forward on the Authentisign then at the end as their offer?
Yeah, like they CC the listing on the signing.
Okay.
Yep, that's really fun. And that doesn't mean that they're not communicating with the listing agent and having phone calls. They'll things are semi-separate, summary, but a lot of, especially in the environment that we've been in with multiple offers, they just want to get it there as fast as possible. And so having them get it immediately after a buyer's. Okay, so then you can map out where people go. So you've got buyer one, buyer two, listing agent, selling agent. Then you can assign those signing blocks. Then there's tools in here. You can add signatures anywhere you want. You can add an auto date. I love the auto date. So it's whenever they sign, it creates the date. I like to do this for the final acceptance date. If you're the last one to sign and you're CCing the other party. Text. Yeah. So the final acceptance date on a purchase agreement, I like to use that auto date if you are the last person to sign the purchase agreement and you have the other agent on the transaction. So say you get an offer, you're on the listing side and you get an offer, your seller's gonna accept it without a counter, and or this is with the counter, whatever it might be. And you can put that auto date right on the final acceptance, and then make sure that your buyer's agent is CC'd on that signing, because the date needs to be the date of the delivery. But it saves from having to add the date after that. Or like, sometimes you do have things late, or a buyer or seller is signing like late at night and it could roll into the next day. It's late for whatever reason. And so that would be the difference between like someone signing on a Thursday or a Friday if it's close to midnight. Yeah, so that's why I like that auto date rather than. Okay, you can do all sorts of other things like draw lines right through. Highlight. Okay, then next would be actually sending. I'm not, but you can change the expiration date, and you can set it to send a reminder. If you're not quite done with your signing, send it, also save, and then when you go back to your signing page, you can see it in here, and you'll see it as a draft. So you can see like this is a draft, it was sent, this one completed, this one actually expired. See the status of something. You can show how many agents. So once you send something. So once you send something, you can see in here if somebody has opened it and authenticated, or if they haven't opened it yet. This signing is actually sign in order, so that's why this person hasn't even gotten it yet. And then once they've signed it, it'll show up here. And then these are your CCs down here. They'll show everyone. Then you can edit an email address if you mess it up, like it bounces back or whatever. You don't have to like start all over. Edit right in here. Then you can also see individual forms. So once it's through, then you'll have.
I accidentally hit send, so it sent it to my email, which is fine.
Yeah.
And
So
that's why I was saying, like, my
That's what I-
Authentisign is kind of a mess because I have a ton of sparks in there because that's my dog's name. And I created a lot of different forms to be like, oh, I want to see what this one looks like when I get it, or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I should probably go through and delete all my Spark transactions. Or like I've like created templates, but it is like your own thing. Like you can't break it. So I highly recommend people go in there and like play around with things and try sending yourself something or send somebody else something first. As like a buyer, or what did you say when they have to sign in line? Send it to something like send it to somebody else, and see like, well, what does that look like when I get it then? It's you can't break the system.
It's just, it's like a database. You can just make it really messy. So this is what it looks like when it's done. Like you'll have little check marks here. And then if you look on the forums, you'll see original, signed, the certificate. And then you can also see the history. So if somebody opens it, if they've signed it, like you see all of the history. Okay, so say you want to clean this up. And so you're like, oh my gosh, I have all of these in here. So you can click on delete here. The same with
Because all legal transaction, and I know, first of all, I've never sold homes or bought houses, whatever. So I should be quiet, 'cause I just,
I think
at
what,
this point of the game here, you're talking about signatures, sending things to emails. It just.
Right. Got it. Well, we were just talking about if it's a test, like if
Yeah.
she's just testing it out, then you
Or a draft, like if you have a draft in there or something like,
yeah.
if it's signed, I'm gonna probably keep it.
Yeah, I wouldn't delete anything that's signed with a buyer or seller. We're talking about all the stuff that you're just playing around with that aren't real. Same thing with contacts. You can come in here, all the same. You can edit or delete, have them. Put them in the basket, and then you delete them. You do more at once.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, like, I should probably go in there, I got like Spark 1, Spark 2 sheets. Got a lot of houses.
Yeah, so like I have duplicate right there, my top two, like that's the same person, they've got added in here twice. So I can delete one.
Got offers going out left and right.
I know. She's a crazy property owner.
Okay, did we do everything we wanted?
You should show us, I mean, I use them, but you should show people online the profile one.
Okay, yeah. So if you are in here and you can click on template, so you will have probably, well, I know you have these, so these are actually Billy Polly's, these top two. And then these 5 are all profiles and anyone is welcome to use them, whether you're a client of ours or not. And so if you click on like offer template.
Is that because he, oh,
You had permission from the share for this. Because of the stupid technology that they have, that you can't just share a template.
put in person, you have to share to the office.
You have to share, yeah, and if you share just the template, it doesn't share the template, it only shares the transaction that you created with that template. The dumbest. Like, it doesn't seem very useful. Okay, so I'm gonna skip over to the forms. So, this is what we have for a purchase agreement. So this is what I was talking about where, using our template, I go in and then I'm gonna delete anything out of here that I'm not gonna use. So, if it's not vacant land, I'm gonna delete the vacant land. If it's not a CIC, I'm gonna delete the CIC. If it's not, I don't know, if there's no well or septic, I'm gonna delete that. I do keep counteroffer in here so that it's already a part of this transaction. I don't have to add it later because paper is faster. And I also keep an amendment in here as well. Just because if there is an inspection period, I'm most likely to have an amendment, and I just want it in here, so then I can just hop in, change, like, add what I want to that, and then move on to the signing.
As opposed to opening a blank form, and then you do have the option when you open that form. Where you just want to show us that.
Yeah, so
Add it to your transaction.
yeah, so you can open, like, you can add, so say you already have a purchase agreement and you're not using one of our templates and you don't have the extra things in there, or you deleted it right away because you wanted it super clean. Then you just click on add, and then you find your, down at the bottom. Yeah. So then you find your amendments and you click on it and you add it, and then that will add that form right into the transaction. And then it'll be available in the signings as well. And when you go into the signings, you saw we could just pick whichever forms we wanted. And so that's what's nice about having the extra forms in here that you will need later, or possibly like a counter offer.
So that was interesting. I always like click the circle and then go to my basket and send it by me that way. So I like your way. But
Yeah,
so there's a lot of different ways to do things, but
there is, like, you can just go to signings and then you can pick your transaction from signings. I personally just like this over here. I just click on signings, and then you'll be able to see. So then once you get in your transaction, you can see all the signings here. So like if it's a listing, you would see sending out the docs, then you would see maybe sending the seller's disclosure later. Then you would see maybe a purchase agreement or an offer. Then you would see the inspection amendment, like everything would then just be lined up in here for your signing. So if you need to reference it for that purchase agreement again, or that transaction, it's all in one spot. Any chats
I
online?
think I'm good. That's great.
Kelly. Yeah, it doesn't look like there's any questions online either. All right, well, thank you guys all for being here.
Yeah, of course. Of course, of course. And if you're like, oh my gosh, I never want to log into there, you can hire profile and you never have to log into there.
So,
Oh, that's okay.
or no, maybe I did it.
Thank you, everybody. I have to book, so